Good afternoon, everybody. I posted a little poll about which eye you'd rather see, a really natural look eye or a dramatic eye. And the poll said you wanted to see a dramatic eye makeup. So with my TruAura palettes, I'm going to try to give you something very dramatic. Um, I normally play my eyes up quite a bit, but I'm going to even go a step further today and see just how much drama in our eyes we can make. So I am going to start out. I've put a little foundation and blush on and a little bit of lipstick, and I'm probably going to change that. But I'm going to lay out several of our eyeshadow palettes here, and I'm going to use bits and pieces from several different ones. So I'll show you here in just a second which ones I'm using. And we will get started. So, okay, I have brought 4 eyeshadow palettes over here with me. Of course, I'm going to always take color or pigment from After Midnight. You all can see that this is my favorite. Maybe not my favorite, it's my go-to. And this is our Coffee Shop. It's more browns. This is our Earth and Sky, and it's all frosts. So I'm going to use probably a little bit of a couple of these. Maybe I might use all of them. We'll see. But this is a frost. And one thing that y'all might know about me, if I don't use brushes on frost, I use my fingertips. They just tend to adhere to your eyelid better, and the shimmer comes out a little bit more poignant. So I'm going to use that. And then this is our Smoke and Mirrors, and I'm going for this dark charcoal look here with this. So I also brought over some of our Alabaster Perfect Foundation, powder foundation. It's a real pale powder foundation. I brought over our Highlight Bronzer Quad and several different brushes. One thing that I'm missing, going to get some of our, where is my mascara? Oh, here it is. I did. And so I'm going to do some tight lining on my waterline with some of our mascara. So let's get started. So I do have a little bit of highlighter that I used just this morning with some mascara to go out for coffee with a friend. And so I'm going to kind of go over my eyelid the way I would. This is just kind of how I start. I always start with kind of a base or like a primer, but I use our Perfect Powder Foundation in Alabaster as my primer. And so let me get a mirror over here. I'm going to try to not look in this mirror a whole lot, or I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going over my entire lid with some of the Perfect Powder Foundation in Alabaster, just as a primer. And then let's go up here and all across the lid. And since I think I'm going to do my eyebrows first, because I like to use it as kind of an upper frame for whatever I'm doing. And if I'm going to do a little more dramatic, then I'm going to try to bring it to a whole using my brows as kind of a guideline. So let's get a brush. You all know how much I love the, I'm missing one, and I'm missing the one that, no, I'm not, the Vertex eyeliner brushes. I am going to want the one that is missing though. Here it is. These are amazing. They are really substantial as far as I can't get my chair straight. As far as the brush goes, it's not flimsy. It's got a lot of body to it. And the set comes with 4 brushes, a flat straight, an angled straight, and then 2 just really pretty narrow, but nice as far as the substance of the brush. Very nice. And then I have a Vidalia brush that's a bent brush, if you can see that. I used to use e.l.f. I don't like e.l.f. anymore. It just got, I think they changed it. I don't know, but I like the substance of this brush better. So I'm gonna bring these over, and I'm gonna start with my eyebrow. And so I'm going to use this little tiny angled brush that I really, really like. And I'm going to put a little drop of balancing mist on my desktop. And I'm going to use it as a styling or setting lotion. So I'm going to get this brush a little bit wet, and I'm going to go to, let's see, I'm going to go to this brush had something on it, and it's not, I don't think I want hot pink on my eyebrows. So let's get that clean, and then we will use some. Try this again. I love these brushes, but I forgot that I used it to use a lip liner. I use our Rouge, one of our eyeshadows and one of our blushes I'll use as a lip liner from time to time. And I guess that's what I use this brush for, and I didn't clean it. Shame on me. So let's get it a little bit damp. And then I'm going to go to our bronzer quad, and I'm going to use the darker, because if we're going to go dramatic, then I'm just going to go dramatic. And I'm going to try to do this where you can see. Now, I just dyed my eyebrows yesterday. I have very blonde eyebrows. And so about every 2 months, I will use Reflectacil eyebrow dye and kind of make them stand out a little bit more, which is what I did yesterday. But I'm still going to even make them a little more prominent for a dramatic eye. But mostly I'm going to do it on the bottom side of my brow. And I want to do that to just kind of extend this outer edge just a bit. I'm going to do a little bit up on the top. And I'll do that on both sides. And I'm just doing little tiny wispy strokes with this brush. And then let me get my brush damp again. And we'll do this side. Just because I want the underside of the brow to be a little more defined. So, okay, so I'm going to do that. And then I might take some of this even darker, just for a couple of little strokes right across the arch. And this is our After Midnight, and the color, I think, is the pewter, but it's a beautiful brown. It's a very cool colored brown that I use it a lot. Okay, so I'm going to start with that. Now I will go, let's see. I brought over our Warm Sands blush, and it's a really, really very neutral, kind of a bare, minimal look for blush, but I'm going to use it on my eyelids. And I'm going to take a brush that's a little fluffy, not terribly, but a little, kind of like this right here. Like this is a blender brush. Or let me see, maybe my TruAura eyeshadow brush. I like that better. So I'm going to use my TruAura eyeshadow brush, and it's just a nice, very, very nice brush for eyeshadows. And I'm going to use this more kind of a sand color. It's called clay. I think this is clay. I don't know. It might be terracotta. I always get them backwards. But I'm going to get a little bit of this darker shade, and I'm going across. I'm not going to go up to my brow. I am going to go across the mid lid above my orbital fold, and a little bit on this outer edge. I'm going to leave this part kind of natural for now. But I'm going to go with this darker shade of blush across my lid. And I always kind of bring this whatever I put on this section of my eye, I usually attach it at the front of my brow. That's kind of where my framework. Okay. Now I'm going to get that foiled color, the shimmery color in our Earth and Sky. And I'm going to go over my lid with this gold, and it is called, I think this is Sunset. So I'm going to use the Sunset, and I'm going to use it on my fingertip. And I'm going across this front section of my eye. I don't usually use a lot of golds, but I really like this. And generally I don't use shimmery, but I really like this. So, all right, so I've done the Warm Sands blush, and then the Earth and Sky Sunset. And now I'm going to kind of layer this outside edge. So I think I'm going to start, let's see. I think I'm going to start with, which one of these is darker? Okay, with the After Midnight and the pewter, this color that I said, such a pretty, right here, such a pretty brown. It's kind of a cool brown. Or do I want to go? Yeah, that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to use it first. So let's go. We'll get my brush a little bit damp because, and you can see where I've used water to get some of this color. Anytime you use a damp brush with your shadows, it's going to make the pigment that you put on your skin darker, more. It just gives you more pigmentation if your brush is damp. So I'm going to do, oh, you know what? Okay, y'all also know me. If you've watched any of my videos, I use paper to create my edge out. Normally, I will take a piece of paper and I will go from my bottom water rim up more toward my brow. But today I'm going to bring it out more to the side. And right now I'm just going to create an edge. With that damp brush and this brown color that I think it's called pewter. And then I'm going to try to match that angle over here to this side, right here. So right now I'm just putting a line in to give me where my edge is. Right there. Now I need a small brush, and I'm going to use an e.l.f. concealer. e.l.f. has a concealer brush that's a tiny little brush. Most of the time I use if I'm using a brush for concealer, it's a little bit larger, but I like this little e.l.f. concealer brush for eye lining on my lower lid. So that same color, I'm going to take some of that on this brush, and I'm going to just do a line across my lower lid, and then I'm going to kind of smudge it. So see what you can see. And normally I don't ever come into the very corner of my eye, but I'm going to do that today with this. So And then let's follow straight up from this up into that line that I just made out to the side. And I'm going to follow that line down and under my eye and all the way into the corner. And this is going to be a little bit dramatic even for me. And I usually play my eyes up quite a bit. But this is going to be a little bit different even for me as far as drama. Okay, so right there, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to line my water rim. And I'm going to do that with some of our lash enhancing mascara and a very small brush. Now this is one of the Vertex brushes. I'm going to use the straight flat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some mascara off of the wand. Now, this is a lash enhancing mascara, and anytime that you use it around your lashes, it's going to nourish and nurture growth and stability to where they don't break as much. They're not as dry. They don't fall as much. You don't have as much lash loss. So I'm just going to get some of this on this brush. That's one thing I love about TruAura is we have such versatility in the colors and the palettes that we have that you can use. Like I say, I use the foundation as an eye primer. I use the eyeshadows as an eyeliner. I use the mascara as an eyeliner. I use some of the blushes as a lip liner. They're just so versatile, and the colors are so great. So, but I'm going to take some of this mascara on a brush. And I'm going to put it onto my water rim. Now, I'm going to have to probably get really close to this mirror. So let me just get it up here and set my elbow down. And I'm going right, okay, how am I going to do this? I'm going to go right on this water rim. Can you see that? Let me get a little bit more. And I have done this before and had to clean my eyes out because I got it on the inside of my eye instead of on the rim of my eye. But it doesn't burn. It's awesome. I love it. And I'm going to get a little closer this time so I can see a little bit better. And so I used some of the mascara on a brush and I did my water rim right here. I might want to do that side just a tiny bit more. And while I'm at it, I'm just going to go ahead and do the top as well. So let's do that one. I'm going to lay my finger down and just kind of lift so that I can see my water rim. And all the way into this corner right here. All right, let's do that one more time on this side. Tell you what, my allergies have been driving me crazy lately, so my eyes and my nose have been red. And so there's a little, okay, now what I've done here is just the underside of my lash. I've lined that water rim with some black from our lash enhancing mascara. And so now I'm going to go back to this After Midnight, and I'm going to also use some of the Smoke and Mirror. So I'm fixing to go to the dark shades, this right here, and then these two right here. And I need a brush with a little more, it's a little more sturdy. Excuse me just a second. I'm going to get a different brush. So I'm getting one. This isn't another e.l.f. brush. It's actually an eyeshadow brush that's a little kind of a stumpy little brush. But I like it a lot. I'm going to get a little bit more of the Balancing Facial Mist as a setting lotion. And I'm going to get another piece of paper. And we're going to do some dark edges, dark outer edges, and see if we can't get that a little bit dramatic. So I'm going to get this brush wet. I'm going to do this in layers. So I'm going to start with that brown pewter color that is in our After Midnight. I'm going to start with this dark, and I'm going to build this outside edge. So I'm going to use my paper right along the edge that I created to start. Now I'm going to come in around my lash line here and up. Let's see. I'm looking at a picture here. I want to see. Up into my orbital fold. And I'm not going to go all the way into my fold across the entirety of my eye. I'm just going to go about halfway, like even with my pupils on this inside that fold. So let's do the other side with that pewter color and my little piece of paper to give me my boundary. We're going to go up. Oh, I just got quite a bit on that one, but that's okay. I'm going to go there anyway. I'm going to let that dry for just a second. And then I'm going to buff it. And then I'm going to add a different color, a darker color on top and just kind of build some. So I need a brush. I'm going to use this brush. This is a blending eye brush. And this one is e.l.f. Because I got that pretty wet, to get a little bit darker pigment, I'm going to let it dry a little bit more. So sometimes people will say they do a greater than and less than sign, or like a Batman on the outer edges, greater than and less than, little V's right here. I don't normally do that, but that's what I'm doing here, is that greater than and less than. And now I'm going to use my piece of paper as my boundary again, and I'm going to brush and blend. So I'm just going to put that right along and normally I would go all the way up to my water rim on my lower lid, but I'm going to go a little bit below that because I've put an eyeshadow down lower than I normally do. So I'm going to blend a little lower than I normally do. So there's that side, and let's do this side. Like that. Okay, I'm going back to my shimmer because I'm going to put a little bit of shimmer in between the layers. So I'm going back to this, oops, wrong one. Going back to the gold. Where is it? I'm going back to the gold in our Earth and Sky. And I'm going to put a little bit more here and kind of over what I've done. And now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put that, I think that this is indigo, but I'm going to go with this blue. I always somehow or another put blue in, and I love that color. So I'm going to go back to the brush that's a little bit stumpy. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going into this indigo blue. I'm going to grab another piece of paper for my edge. And now I'm going over that that brown with this indigo. And y'all can see I normally go up a little bit higher up with this angle, and I'm kind of coming out more to the side with this today. Let's do this one. I have a little bit better view. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna let that dry just a little bit. And then I'm going to go over it one more time with the charcoal from our smoke and mirrors. And I'm going to do it with a little bit fluffier brush. I think I'm going to use my TruAura eyeshadow brush. And I'm going to get some of this charcoal. And I always use a piece of paper because I always want to maintain that edge. But I'm going over that now with, and I'm going to come it's kind of like I'm blending. I've lost my color. Here it is. And I'm just going to kind of blend it in now with that deep charcoal color. One thing that I always do have handy, and watch me, I know I do have it here, is I have two brushes. One is a kind of an eyeshadow brush like this, and one is got a more of a point to it, but I keep concealer on it, and I keep it to maintain this edge right here. If I have a little shadow fallout, I will use it for that. So now I'm going to put some eyeliner on, and I'm going to use the navy blue from our After Midnight palette. I'm going to use one of the Vertex brushes, the one that's a little bit more substantial. There's two that are just a straight brush, but I'm going to use this heavier brush, and I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to take from, you can tell I use this one for eyeshadow all the time. I'm going to take some of this for eyeshadow, and I'm going to do all the way across. How did I get that up there? And I tell people, when you're doing eyeliner, it doesn't have to be perfect, because you can always go back and kind of smudge your eyeshadow and make it perfect or perfectly smoky. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just kind of creating the emphasis of the drama. And it's usually with me, it's usually with eyeshadow, with eyeliner. Like that. All right. So, okay, one more thing before I do some mascara is now I'm going to go back over with, where is my after? Oh, here's my Earth and Sky. So the Earth and Sky has this beautiful bronze color on it. I'm going to take some of that bronze on a kind of a fluffy brush. And I'm going to just kind of go over all of this right here. That's the one thing that I have found. If I'm doing an eye that's really more dramatic, like a more of an evening look, I do it in layers. And then once again, I'm going to take a little bit more gold just to kind of emphasize that right there. And like, these are so shimmery. I like shimmers with my fingertips. But I'm going to also make sure I didn't disrupt that line that I just put out. Okay, I'm going to finish this eye with some mascara. I have a little bit of mascara on just because I put some mascara on with some blush and a little bit of highlighter this morning to go out for coffee. But let's see what I can do here. If I were doing a really dramatic eye to go out for an evening, I would put a half of an eyelash, false eyelash on the outer edge. I don't ever use a full, very rarely do I use a full eyelash. But I do like to put a half an eyelash on. But today I'm just going to do mascara. So it looks like I need to open a new mascara because I'm kind of running out here, it looks like. And one thing I love about our mascara brush is it's on a hinge. And it's great for getting into these little lashes right here. I love it. And another thing I don't usually do is my lower lashes. But if I were going out on an evening, being all dressed up, I probably would do my lower lashes. So let's do a little bit of lower lash. And then the last thing that I'll do is take some of our balancing facial mist, and I am going to just kind of spray. I'm going to let it sit for just a second, and then I'm going to just kind of blend, brush a little bit all around my eye. And I'm going to do it with let's use this. I have another brush. This is another e.l.f. brush, and it is actually a flat eyeliner brush. And a lot of times I will use it for just for blending and buffing. And it is flat. It's just a flat, plain little brush. And I'm just going to kind of make this a little more finished on these edges. And then I'm going to take a little bit of the Alabaster Perfect Powder Foundation and just a brush, and I'm going to just kind of do this underneath to kind of clean up any fallout. Another thing, if I'm going to go out for an evening and I'm going to do a real dramatic eye, I will put my eye makeup on first, and then that way you can wash away any fallout that you have. And so I would normally do that first, but since I've already gotten dressed today, I'm going to have to do it this way. So here's just kind of finishing off those little edges, making sure they're buffed out pretty. And that is my dramatic eye with our TruAura colors. So what I used was our TruAura Alabaster Perfect Powder Foundation as a primer. And I used the Coffee Shop palette, the Smoke and Mirrors palette, the After Midnight palette, and the Earth and Sky palette. And then I also started with the Warm Sands blush on my eyelid. Now, one thing, if I'm going to do something really, really dark, I'm not going to do my lips dark. So what I would do would be kind of put a foundation across my lips, and I'm going to do that with some of this Perfect Powder Foundation. And I love our Bare lipstick. I've never found a nude color lipstick that I love. Generally, they're too pink, or they're too pale, or they're too something that I just don't. I've probably bought 8 or 10 nude colors. This is called Bare. It's a neutral Bare. So if you have a warm skin tone or a cool skin tone, it's great for everybody. It's just a beautiful, Bare color. I love it. And I am just going to put it on like this. And then I'm going to brush a little bit of our lip balm over it. And that is it. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. And I will see you all next time. Thank you.